Hello, so welcome again to this edition. Today I'm going to be telling you about the International English Language Testing System, just giving you a random overview and a guideline on how you can be able to understand what the exam is and how you are going to be able to approach it as much as possible. So the International English Language Testing System, for people who don't know about it, is what we call IELTS. And that exam is always a requirement and eligibility for people who want to travel, to work and study in countries like the United Kingdom, the, Canada, Australia, and the United States. So if you're going to be interested in this video, that means you're someone who is interested in traveling to these states and may want to work or study. Now, this exam is in 4 parts. We have the reading, we have the writing, we have the listening, and we have the speaking. And in very good order, listening, writing, reading, speaking. And now this exam it's usually around 2 hours, 40 minutes thereabout. And then you're expected to answer, every question across these sessions. The IELTS exam is just to test your English proficiency. Your proficiency, how are you able to read, how you're able to write, how you're able to speak, communicate, and also listen to spoken words in English language. That means you are expected to answer questions across these 4 parts. Each of these parts has sections, and I'm going to tell you everything about them now. For the listening, let's start with listening. Listening, this is just testing your ability to, listen or grab already spoken words in English language. And that means this one has 4 sections. 4 sections, and usually takes around 30 minutes to complete. That means you're supposed to pay attention. You're going to hear voices speaking in different forms, in monologue, in conversations, and lectures, of course. Now that brings me to talking about something very important. The IELTS system exams is actually divided into academic and general. A lot of people don't know the difference between academic and general. For academic, if you're going to take academic, you must be someone who wants to do an undergraduate or postgraduate degree in an English-speaking country. It means if you need to go to school, you would need to write academics. If you're not going to school, you're going to write general. General is utilized for people who just want to travel to an English-speaking country or are taking below degree programs in an English-speaking country. So that already gives you an idea. And for the exam, there are 2 different things. The exams for the academic is different from general, but just in writing and reading. Now back to listening. Listening is going to take 30 minutes and it has 4 parts. The first part is going to contain, questions. It's just 40 questions for each for 1 mark, and they're going to be graded, same grades for each one. So you're going to have first part is going to be like a monologue. You just hear voices of people having conversations, or monologue of someone saying something to themselves, or a lecturer teaching in a class, or a conversation, an academic conversation if you're writing academics. If you're writing general, it's just going to be general. Now, after the listening, you have to go to the writing or reading. Well, let's talk about reading. Reading is also going to be 60 minutes exam. Sorry, reading is actually going to be 30 minutes exam again. And you're expected to finish everything in that time. Remember that in reading, you're expected to have different varieties of questions, a lot of ways questions can come in matching, in labeling, in writing short answers, in completing sentences, different forms of reading. So reading requires you to scan and skim, and that is what I'm going to be discussing in detail in the complete class. So what you have to do is whenever you're giving your question, you try as much as possible to read the instructions carefully, because when you don't read the instructions, you will not understand what you are supposed to do. In some questions, you are expected to just fill true, false, not given. In some, you're supposed to expect to fill yes, no, not given. In some, you're also expected to fill 2 words, not more than 2 words, not more than 3 words, or not more than a number. So you must have to pay attention to these things, and they are very confusing. Talking about writing, writing occurs in just 2 parts. If you're doing generals, you're going to be writing letters for the part 1. Part 1 is just 150 words. So part 1, you have to write letters. Formal letter, semi-formal letter, personal letter. So, but if you're writing the academics, you're going to be given a graph, a table, a chart, or a map to describe and analyze in, 150 words. So you must have to be sure that you know all these things and how to tackle them. The second part is the essay, where you're going to write large or humongously about different things. So you have lots and lots of, they can ask you questions, but we're going to delve into these things in the main live session. So talking about the speaking is the only one that you may take before the 3. These 3, listening, reading, and writing, can be taken at a stretch. But the speaking can be taken before or after those ones. It can be that same day, it can be the next day. So this one involves a face-to-face conversation between you and the examiner. So it's not like you're going to have a place where, you're going to have your face-to-face conversations. Remember, if you're writing a paper, you have a little more technicalities compared to someone who is writing CBT. And why I'm going to explain this is this. If, for example, you're writing listening and you're doing paper, you are going to be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer booklet. That is different. If you're writing CBT, you are going to have just 1 or 2 minutes to transfer your answers. And I recommend you write it, once you're getting the answers, put them immediately in the box, because the time may not be complete. Reading is 60 minutes, but writing is 60 minutes, but speaking is usually always 11 to 14 minutes. So they're going to ask you questions about, questions that are familiar to you and questions that may not be familiar to you. But you need to prepare and practice these things effectively to be able to stand out. Now, if you are at this stage and you're confused about, what you're supposed to see in your in your writing, or your speaking, or your listening, you are actually lucky, because you're going to be having to join the live session where you can ask your questions, and anything you think that you don't know or you're confused about, in each of these parts of IELTS exam, or each of the sections, you can be given full explanation. Recap. For the listening, we have just 40 questions and 4 parts. So each part 10 questions. For the reading, we have just 3. So you're going to have 3 parts and each one 10 questions. You understand? So we are going to have like 40 questions for reading, 40 questions for listening, but for reading, it might vary. Each of them can have 14, 13, just to make up the 40 questions. For writing, you must be specific. Writing must follow the topic sentence. Do not write or deviate from what they are saying. It must be what they ask you to write. And for speaking, you must be able to listen and watch your grammar and pronunciations. Now I'm going to give you, this is just a general overview of what the International English Language Testing System is, and continuously I'm going to highlight them on each of these parts and give a full explanation how you can approach the questions and top tips that are going to help you succeed. So if you're seeing this video, just like, follow, and subscribe to be able to get notifications on when our live session starts and what exactly we might be telling you, in the coming videos, trying to buttress each of these parts and why you should prepare for them effectively. Thank you so much. I'm Robinson. I'm going to see you in the next video.